This program is brought to you by the Genesis Communications Network, a world leader in talk radio since 1998. Visit GCNlive.com today.
You're in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Last week when Chris was on special assignment, we had Micah Hanks as the co-host. And during the course of our discussion with Micah, I mentioned the fact that anytime we discuss politics, even in relationship to like UFO disclosure or the interest of a president or presidential candidate in UFOs, some listeners really get out of shape over it. So I asked Micah, because he has a couple of podcasts going, how's it with you? And he said about half his listeners love to hear it. Half his listeners say, ah! So you see, you can't win.
Yeah, I'm going through something similar on the forums. Every time I bring up a post that questions conservative scientism, a materialistic view of reality when it comes to, I think what could be a potential breakthrough that we could make in the paranormal realm with the study of consciousness and the impact of psychedelics on consciousness. I just get shut down. There's some people that are so anti-drugs, they're so programmed, they're so brainwashed into thinking that drugs are bad. They'd rather sit there, and I'm not talking about this specific individual, but some people would rather sit there and drink alcohol, gobble OxyContin, and then cast aspersions on psychedelics and entheogens, which could provide us with some of the most groundbreaking, blasting the door open knowledge about UFOs, any sort of psychic abilities and parapsychological subjects. It's just so frustrating to attempt to create an open-minded dialogue or create an open-minded forum for this type of suggestion and have people suck the air out of it and say, well, this can't be possible. It's all subjective. You're full of, what. Even though it doesn't get to that point, the sniffy, dismissive, point-by-point refutation of anything having to do with open box thinking around this subject is so disingenuous. The hubris and the lack of open-mindedness is the same as talking, going up the Grand Canyon and listening to a creationist tour company try to explain the Grand Canyon is only 5,260 years old or something. And it's exactly the same thing in my book. When it comes to politics on this show, it's our show. This is a very important issue. It's probably one of the most important elections in the history of the country. If you have a problem with that, don't listen.
Well said. Now, when it comes to drugs, we've had this artificial barrier for so long. Certain drugs are okay. Oxy's fine, even if you get addicted to it. Or alcohol, that's a drug, has all sorts of weird effects, and it's very harmful if you take too much of it. And then right now, just now, we're hearing stories that the government will allow scientists to do more work into looking at the effects of marijuana. And you think 20 states in the United States allow for medical marijuana. We're not talking about recreational drugs here. We're talking about something that has a medicinal benefit, like reducing the effects of chemo, which completely wrecks you, possibly having some benefit
in
dealing with cancer.
Jimmy Carter's claiming that the use of medical marijuana has put his cancer in remission. I mean, there's an ex-president. Marijuana, or cannabis, as I prefer to call it, is still Schedule 1. Schedule 1 means it has no medical benefit. Cannabis probably has more medical benefits than any other plant on the planet. And the only reason why it's still Schedule 1 and still illegal on a federal level is because of the tobacco and alcohol lobbies. The undue influence of corporations in this country is getting to the point where it's really beyond ridiculous. I don't know how many studies you need to present to show the wonderful benefits of cannabis for the government to actually, do the right thing. Of course, the government now is quietly and kind of unofficially taken a more laissez-faire, sort of a hands-off approach to medical marijuana. They're not going in and raiding, feds aren't going in and raiding dispensaries or, really making an effort to stamp out cultivation of medical marijuana. So we're slowly seeing an easing of the stigma and the ridiculous prohibition around this substance. But we still have a long way to go. I really, when it comes to the same with psychedelics, I mean, my God, psychedelics, they're barrier dissolving, boundary crashing. They help you wake up and really see the truth behind things. And that's the last thing the government wants or corporations want, is you to see the truth about what's really behind what they're up to and how they're doing it and what their potential agendas are. And God forbid the great American pubic should wake up one day.
Exactly. Well, there is a ballot proposition, I believe, in Arizona now to legalize marijuana. That will be on the ballot in November. How that will fare in Arizona, red state Arizona, who knows? You see, we're getting back into politics, but the one thing I just want to say very quickly before we get back into our subject matter, with regard to cannabis. Now, when my late brother-in-law, Stephen, was on chemo, his second dosage, they gave him more of it in the hopes of really dissolving that tumor. He had pancreatic cancer, which is very much a death sentence for most people anyway. He pretty much died then and there because it just took so much out of him. And if he had had cannabis to help reduce those symptoms, I very much think it might have gone easier for him.
Well,
but they didn't bother. They should have, because medical marijuana is allowed in Arizona.
Well, just the whole subject of chemo. I mean, chemo probably kills more people than the cancer does.
There are experimental medications of all kinds, some where they literally rebuild your immune system to fight the cancer.
Right.
And they're making all sorts of amazing progress. But where is E.T. when we needed them,
Yeah.
We see all these messages that E.T. is going to channel these creatures from whatever, I told you a couple of times in the show, I get these messages on Facebook where this woman says the star beings from Zeta Reticuli, they must be pretty hot if they're living in stars, are being channeled. Fine, I'll ask you a question. My brother-in-law didn't hurt anybody. Why is he dead from cancer? Why can't E.T. get in there and do something about it? What about all the other people? What about my mother-in-law who died at 60 from pancreatic cancer? She never hurt anybody. All she did was be nice to people, and she was very funny, and she was the only person on the planet, Gwen Kaplan, the only person on the planet to laugh at my jokes.
I just laughed at one.
Well, she was a really great person. Why did she have to die at 60? Why did she have to die a year before her grandson Grayson was born? What is E.T. doing for us? E.T. allegedly has been in touch with us for all these years, giving us messages of peace and brotherhood, and we have people being beheaded. Yeah, we get into politics again. We have people dying of cancer. We have people being hit because of automobile accidents. We have an actor, for example, where there was a defect in his Jeep, and he stopped his car to check his mail or something, and the car backed into him and killed him. And right. Everybody can see his last performance, by the way, because he played Chekhov on the new Star Trek series.
Well, you could say the same thing. Well, why does God allow these things to happen? We're dealing with a combination of really conservative, outmoded thinking and irrational attempts at forward thinking. Sure, there's aliens out there, but again, why would they come here and solve all our problems?
They frankly would look at us and say, as Michael Rennie did in The Day the Earth Stood Still as Clot 2, if you don't get your acts together, we're going to get rid of you. That's it. We're going to put you out of your misery. He didn't say it that way, but that's the effect. We've got Walter Bosley joining us for chatter and a surprise guest a little bit later. With Gene and Chris, you're in the Paracast. The award-winning Graphic Converter 10, the universal genius for photo editing apps on your Mac. Join over 1.5 million loyal users for the Swiss Army Knife app. It gives you all the features that you expect, and most important, it's easy to use. You can get it for just $39.95 from www.lemkesoft.com. That's www.lemkesoft.com. Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
Dangerous blood clot device alert. If you or a loved one had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to your heart or lungs and suffered an injury, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, and even death. These dangerous blood clot devices can break, and the metal fragments can travel to your heart or lungs, causing serious injuries. If you or a loved one suffered organ damage or other injuries from an IVC filter, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada.
I'm Jesse Gonzalez, Vice President at Kmart. Did you know that premature birth is the #1 killer of babies in the United States, or that survivors can face a lifetime of serious health problems? But you can help. Join me in Kmart for the March for Babies Walk. We'll work together to raise funds for research and programs that help the marginalized fight premature birth and birth defects and improve the health of moms and babies. Start your team today at marchforbabies.org.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
Worried about lead, fluoride, and other contaminants in your drinking water? Get a ProPure with the Pro 1G 2.0 cleanable reusable filter and remove up to 200 contaminants. Drink water the way nature meant it to be. Clean, crisp, and refreshing. See the complete line of ProPure products, including the new ProMax shower filter. There's a ProPure for you. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer for details or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Just in time, we're joined by Walter Bosley, and he's going to pick up on the conversation. We'll have a surprise guest later on the Paracast. Let me tell you first, we've got a second radio show we want you to listen to, and it's not always about politics. As one person claimed the other day when saying, I'm not going to renew my subscription. Well, we now have space for another subscription. We'd like you to fill it. Just check out the Paracast Plus at plus.theparacast.com. That's plus.theparacast.com. I have a second chapter from that book with Chris and his great friend, Ray Stanford. With Chris and Ray Stanford, and the second chapter is ready. We'll put it up. Only available to Paracast Plus subscribers. After the Paracast, the commercial-free version of this show. What more could you ask? There'll be more. Plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. And what this means is you got to get something really special there for a low subscription rate. So, Walter Bosley, let's bring you up to date on what we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. We're talking about the treacherous version of our world here. Nothing is working. And E.T. supposedly is out there, and E.T. won't help us. We have people who claim they are channeling messages from the beings from Zeta Reticuli. Mm-hmm. Very hot beings, because that's a binary star system.
Right.
And these hot beings are channeled, but we have people here dying of cancer. We have people here being beheaded by ISIS. Mm-hmm. We have people here being killed in auto accidents, like Anton Yelchin, the actor who played Chekhov in the new Star Trek series, where he stopped his car and it backed into him because of some kind of brake transmission issue. And they're suing Jeep, by the way, and I hope they win $100 million for everybody.
Yeah.
So, by the way, the Jeep's never going to advertise here. We're not going to have any ads from Fiat Chrysler as a result of that. But you see what's happening. E.T. isn't doing anything. Now, even if it's a breakaway civilization, wouldn't they care about us to help?
Well, actually, I think people ought to consider what is this telling us. It tells me that maybe ET hasn't solved all these issues themselves. The ETs are probably dealing with the same, imperfections. Too many people assume that ET must come from some utopia. And I've disagreed with that for a while. I think there's ETs out there with a decidedly, sinister or corrupt motivation, just as easily as there would be those with, an altruistic motivation. So
probably more likely.
Yeah, I think so. I think people need to start looking at all this differently, because it's the age-old thing. Why, God, why, with all the human suffering? Well, that gets into the philosophical aspect. Me personally, and people don't like to hear this, but this ridiculous notion of creating some, perfect utopia in the physical material earth here is kind of childish. I think the suffering is why we're here. And it's supposed to be, part of that experience, part of, all that classic stuff you hear about, building your character, making you understand the, the nature, the full spectrum of reality. I just think that's part of the reason we're here. And, part of that is to see how we react to this adversity.
Emotional boot camp.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're being prepped to see if we really can hack it. Is that what it is?
Yeah, for whatever it is that we actually discover is beyond. I think that I'm a reincarnationist. I think I accept the concept of reincarnation. I also accept that this idea that there is kind of a veil of amnesia, that each time you go into a life, you're blocked from the full memory of what it's like on that other side, because it's so much better than this. Everybody would be killing themselves if they could access, how much better it is. This is my opinion. I just think it's part of the deal. And
Do you believe in a white-haired, long-bearded white man sitting on a throne in the clouds in heaven that's he supposedly wrote this book that we're all supposed to believe in, the lock, stock, and barrel, word for word?
Well, but why does it have to be a white man?
Men wrote that book, first of all. Second of all, no, I don't believe in that necessarily specific model, but I do believe that this being is a being with a distinct personality and sentience. Yeah, I call him the old.
No, it's a 14-year-old pimply-faced kid in some parallel universe, and we're nothing but a software program in his video game.
He looks like Clint Howard. Yeah. From that episode of Star Trek.
Yeah, we're just characters in a VR software program from some other dimension. I mean, I'm convinced.
I'll tell you what, though. I don't like this game. I want to change the rules.
Oh,
I want to do what Captain Kirk did.
Yeah, Kobayashi Maru.
Exactly. I want to do what Captain Kirk did, because that way he didn't believe in no-win scenarios. And I don't either. Right now I got to change a few things.
And you know what my view on that is? I'm glad you brought that up. I think the Kirk solution is what this God being is looking for us to do. See, this business of being these scared little creatures who are supposed to be on our knees and cowering, I don't think a God being would want that. A God being wants us to have some balls to stand up on the 2 feet, and look him in the eye and say, hey, what the F? And then he'll explain what the F, theoretically. But the point is, I think he's looking for us to he's looking for us to have the audacity to think, wait a minute, I can change my situation. I don't have to buy this. And I think that's part of the struggle part of life.
Yeah.
Is, it's looking to see how far it can push us before we take action. And
so it's like going to the window and saying, I'm mad as hell and I can't take it anymore.
Exactly.
I'm not going to take it anymore.
Exactly. And that's what, in my particular case, I refer to, I say God and him. You can say whatever you want in your personal concept, but I say that's what he's looking for. He's looking for, it's kind of like he's Rutger Hauer in the climax of Blade Runner, where he's pushing around Harrison Ford. And he says that point where he says, that's the spirit. That's God to me. He's, poking and poking and poking till we get pissed off and say, you bastard. And then he smiles and he says, that's the spirit. There you go.
Right. Well, I think it's a little bit more than that. I think it's not only overcoming adversity and, showing, spiritual and intestinal.
Oh, it's showing compassion too.
But it's compassion, but it's also creating fun and having happiness in our lives. If you can, if those two things, if you can do that, you are so far ahead of the curve, and you're a very lucky individual on this primitive, violent, misogynist claptrap.
Which is probably no more primitive, violent, or misogynistic than millions of other worlds you'd find out there. Exactly. Yeah, I would agree.
So isn't though happiness a worm gun?
If you're Dick Cheney,
it can be.
Just don't get in his way when you're bird hunting.
Oh, you've got to watch out for that, yeah.
Jesus, happiness is a warm gun.
Bang, bang, shoot, shoot. Hey, we've got Walter Bosley here, and I have no idea what we're going to be talking about, but we also have a special guest joining us a wee bit later. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
In these uncertain times, it makes sense to have a sustainable backup method to cook food and boil water. If your current plan includes using a fuel-burning stove or cooking over an open fire, then there's a much better way. The Minuteman Rocket Stove is a biomass-burning cooking stove that only requires small quantities of sticks and twigs for fuel. The Minuteman stove is easy to use, smokeless, portable, powerful, and sustainable. For the finest in survival cooking stoves and fire starters made right here in the USA, go to MinutemanStove.com. That's MinutemanStove.com.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Injury Help Desk is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention prescription antibiotic drug users. Have you or a loved one suffered an aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, or abdominal aortic aneurysm after taking the prescription antibiotic drugs Levaquin or Avelox? These popular antibiotic drugs have been prescribed more than 80 million times since 2004, and medical studies show an increased risk of the following injuries: aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, and abdominal aortic aneurysm. If you or a loved one used the prescription antibiotic drugs Levaquin or Avelox and suffered from aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, or abdominal aortic aneurysm, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-823-3851. 800-823-3851. 800-823-3851.
If you're considering going back to school, ask yourself the following questions. Do you need the flexibility to take classes on your schedule? Do you have college credits you need transferred? Do you want to earn a quality degree from a world-renowned university? If you answered yes to any of these questions, Arizona State University is the perfect school for you. Arizona State University offers over 100 highly ranked degree programs 100% online. You'll earn the same degree as you would on campus, from wherever you are, on your schedule. Plus, ASU Online accepts most transfer credits. For information, call 1-800-933-1430. Learn for yourself why the Wall Street Journal ranks ASU 5th in the nation for producing the best qualified graduates, and why 90% of ASU grads are recruited within 90 days of graduation. Learn to grow, learn to succeed, and learn to thrive at Arizona State University. To learn more about ASU online degrees, call 1-800-933-1430. That's 1-800-933-1430.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
This is Kurt Sutherland, the author of UFO Mysteries, and you're listening to the Paracast.
Walter Bosley joining Gene and Chris in the Paracast, and we're talking about anything that comes to mind. And we're wondering and struggling now that if E.T., these benevolent star beings are here, why aren't they doing anything to help us? And maybe it's time to act and time to fight back. And that may also explain certain developments in the political realm where things are so bad they look for a sociopath to help them fix things because the solutions being offered aren't working.
Yeah. How do we know that Donald Trump isn't some alien agent?
That's the first time I've heard you refer to Hillary as a sociopath. That's very
Well,
you're making progress.
or Hillary too. Hillary is infinitely more scary as far as I'm concerned. But
before we go on,
I just took it back.
I'm just generally tired of both sides. That's why I avoid it.
Strawberry fields.
What?
We can't make a huge mistake and go there.
So these aliens, I think their hands are just as full as ours, and their attitude is, you guys fix your own crap.
Yeah.
Well, the thing that you realize from Star Trek and the Star Trek universe is that although it looks like the Federation has kind of sort of gotten it together, they're still embroiled in ridiculous politics, just as we are now in the 23rd century. And you've got advanced beings around the galaxy who are just as dangerous as humans, or more so. The Klingons, the Romulans. So probably in the real universe, that may not be so far off. Just because we can get some fancy stuff. Just because we can build fancy spaceships.
You know, my attitude is it is no different wherever you go in the universe. So just embrace the crap and enjoy it. You know, go for the ride.
Yeah, I just realized something. There's this weird, life imitating art thing going on with the Star Trek universe. Mm-hmm. Isn't there a race of nasty guys called Cardassians? I all of a sudden made that connection. Oh my God.
Well, actually, there are nice Cardassians and bad ones. You know, it's like every other race. They're a collection of both.
And the nice ones have taken the time to get all that plastic surgery, and the not nice ones haven't, right? Is that what you're saying?
It's kind of like that, too.
I couldn't resist. It's like the Klingons in Uranus joke. It's like, oh my God, Cardassians. That's, oh. No wonder I didn't like them.
Exactly.
That was a showstopper.
Well, we also have the Ferengi in Star Trek.
Yeah, they're kind of cool because they got them big ears.
That's right.
Like those big bulbous heads with the big brow ridges. But it
was played by Armin Shimmerman, who's a great character actor. You know, a guy who does great voices and everything.
They have pointy teeth.
Is that what did it?
Yeah. Yeah, when you rape a Ferengi, you sit there and massage their ears, right?
Exactly. Okay. Before we go on, I should tell you here that Walter has a PC, not a Mac. All right? Microsoft. That explains everything. Microsoft owns Skype, so you think with a PC, hey guys, with a PC, Skype would work better, right?
You would think.
We have more problems with PCs running Skype than Macs. So, Walter, why aren't you getting a Mac?
Money. I can't afford a Mac. I used to be able to afford a Mac. I had one for the same one for like 5 years, and it was wonderful until it just finally died on me, and couldn't afford to replace it. So,
well, I'll tell you something. Let me give you a reality check. You can get a Mac Portable, a MacBook Air for $899.
I don't have. Please, maybe those Zeta Reticulans that are care about us so much. Maybe they'll buy me one.
I got a used MacBook for $250.
Really?
eBay.
Still okay. Fine. Yeah. I'll check that out. Yeah, this damn thing I got. Usually I'm involved in the purchase of my computers, but this was a gift that my sister got me off the Home Shopping Network. She doesn't know the first thing about my needs. Stuff for computers, so I figured, well, I'll give it a shot, and it's been nothing but a nightmare. It's an HP.
Okay, I'm looking here at the pricing. Now, a used MacBook Air of a fairly recent generation is $400 to $500.
Well, see, that's that, and what he said about $250, that's within the range of when I have money. So this is promising. I think I'll go back and take a look at my possibilities to get a Mac because,
If you don't need a notebook, it could live with a desktop computer, and you already have like an old display or a keyboard and mouse, you can get yourself a Mac Mini for $499 retail, and they've got refurbs for like $399.
Oh wow!
Wow, that's a good deal.
Yeah, that's just a desktop computer. It's a small desktop computer, about 2 inches high, and it'll work with any old display, keyboard, mouse.
Yeah, I've seen those. Cool. Okay.
And compared to what you have now, it is, sir, a revelation.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, we were talking before about extraterrestrial races from Star Trek.
Raping Ferengis.
Ferengis, of course, the role of Quark, the chief salesperson from the Ferengi, was played by an actor named Armin Shimmerman, who is Jewish. So you see the ultimate slur there.
Yeah, a little stereotyping going on, huh?
That's right. Pick a Jew to play a Ferengi.
I like the pointed teeth.
But
it's such a nice touch.
But in all fairness, aren't there, a lot of folks that are actors that happen to be Jewish?
Well, you see, nowadays it doesn't matter anymore like it used to be. In the old days, the Jew had to change their name to be something that was Mid-American or something.
Yeah.
Now you use your real name, even if it's unpronounceable. Use your real name,
Right.
Like an actor from Great Britain, Welshman, Ioan Griffith. Now, right, he played in the original Fantastic Four, Mr. Fantastic. He was on an ABC TV show recently where he plays a guy who can't die, who lives forever. And he's and you hear him in his native British accent, and he's a really charming actor. But if you look at the way he spells his name, which is the way he was born that way, Ioan Griffith, it doesn't look like that at all.
No, Yeah, Welsh is definitely one of those languages where, my dad's mom could speak the Gaelic, but man, that didn't get passed down. That's for sure.
Exactly. It was a series called Forever, by the way. Okay.
Yeah, I never saw it. I'll check it out, but I remember it when it was.
I'm enjoying this Netflix series called Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah, I watched that first season already on that a couple weekends ago.
It has Montauk written all over it. It sounds like they sort of fictionalized some of the Peter Moon, Preston Nichols material. Pretty interesting.
I never thought about that, but you're right. That does, the whole thing feels like Montauk.
The original name for the series was Montauk. I saw a small article on it, but man, it really does have, it's very well done.
Let's do our break here, guys, and we'll talk about Stranger Things. Stranger Things are coming on the Paracast with Gene and Chris and Walter Bosley and a special guest coming up soon. You're in the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
We also have swag. We have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got 60 or so different items, and entails t-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast Jumbo tote bag, all sorts of t-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great t-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
Do you ever feel like you're being watched? Like someone or some company is tracking your every move online? I know I do. That's why I trust Private Internet Access VPN to keep me safe when I'm online. I use it to encrypt my traffic and use an anonymous IP address. Private Internet Access keeps your internet traffic safe from unwanted eyes so you can finally feel safe. $40 a year for peace of mind is a no-brainer. Sign up today at privateinternetaccess.com. Once again, that's privateinternetaccess.com.
There is an affordable alternative to the high cost of healthcare that offers freedom from insurance while providing compliance with the Obamacare individual mandate. Imagine having access to quality, affordable healthcare that allows you the freedom to choose your doctor and hospital. Members can share up to 100% of necessary medical expenses, including some alternative treatments. Find out how you and your family can contain healthcare costs without giving up your freedom. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
Can your vitamin supplements positively affect your blood in 5 minutes? Protovite can. Protovite is a genuine breakthrough liquid daily nutrition that delivers quality ingredients into your blood in less than 5 minutes. Scientifically proven and backed by clinical studies, Protovite supports energy, vitality, and optimal health. Watch our 2-minute live blood cell video and see for yourself at vninc.com/prohealth. That's vninc.com/prohealth.
My computer is so slow, it's making me crazy.
I used to have that problem.
Did you quit using a computer or did you buy a new one?
No, I called Geeks On Site. They made an appointment to visit my home and showed up the same day.
You mean they didn't ask you to bring your computer to a shop? That's what happened when I called a support company.
Geeks On Site can go to your home or business or even repair your computer online. They have 24/7 emergency service.
If you are having problems with your PC or Mac, call Geeks On Site, 1-800-591-1682. Our friendly certified computer repair experts are available 24/7. Call now for a free diagnosis, 1-800-591-1682. Data recovery, virus removal, and maintenance for all laptops, desktops, printers, and networks. That's Geeks On Site for friendly certified computer repair experts, available 24/7 over the phone or in your home or business. Just call 1-800-591-1682. That's 1-800-591-1682, 1-800-591-1682.
So you've got to take a state construction license exam or certification. Can't decide on what books or what chapters to study? Discover right now how you can eliminate unnecessary books and wasted study time. At contractorexam.com, our study materials zero in on state-required test topics in an effective, multiple-choice format. So whether you're a plumber, electrician, general contractor, or other construction-related trade, contractorexam.com will help get you prepared. Visit us at www.contractorexam.com today.
This is Jacques Vallée. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So let's talk about that. Stranger Things on Netflix. Now, Netflix has just some wonderful TV series there. Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Sense8, House of Cards.
Marco Polo.
Lots of good stuff. Stranger Things, I saw the first episode only. I'll watch the rest probably this weekend. And it has an 80s feel to it.
Yeah. I was going to say it's like homage to Spielberg and, I mean, every which way but loose. It's like the Goonies meets
Stephen King.
Poltergeist meets little Stephen King thrown in there with a little bit of I don't know, Twilight Zone. It's really good. I kind of had a little problem with it the first couple episodes, but it definitely is worth hanging in there for it, and it really goes into some interesting, science fiction tinged, almost reality, physics and science, and classified project type stuff, and it's definitely worth it's worth a gander.
And there's two things off the top of my head. First of all, the girl who's part of the project, the girl with the shaved head,
right?
She's really good.
What a good little actress. Yeah, she's very good.
And she had to volunteer, by the way, to have her head shaved for that role. It's not something where she's wearing a skull cap. They shaved her head.
Yeah. That's right. Her hair is really cut. The other thing is Winona Ryder's performance. She must have, come off of this thing just exhausted, because when you watch that whole season, she is frantic in like 99% of everything.
Yeah. Well, you know how they did that, Walter? They just put in a contract that in order to, to get into that kind of method acting mode, we are contractually obliging you to go off your meds during the production of the show. And so that's actually Winona Ryder. It's just she's not sedated.
Oh, Lordy. I hope you're wrong. But she's just, through the whole thing, she maintains a level of, just intense, frantic intensity that...
a little bit of overacting going on there, but...
You know what it is? That she's very pissed off over the fact that in the Star Trek reboot, the very first Star Trek reboot from 2009, she's playing Spock's mother, and they killed her off. Yeah. And she's still pissed off, and that's how she got into this role.
You think?
Yeah.
No.
Whatever you say there, Gino.
Hey, it's definitely something I'm looking forward to the next season of.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. Speaking of Netflix, I surf through there a lot, and I watched a documentary recently on it's called Chaos on the Bridge, written and directed by Shatner and narrated by him, hosted by him.
Right.
But it's a documentary on the creation of and the making of Star Trek The Next Generation, which I'm not a fan of. But the documentary was really interesting. It goes into all the drama, that Gene Roddenberry had brought to it, and showrunners and stuff. It's really interesting. You should check it out.
Yeah, I did. It was very, very interesting. And and also there's another one called The Captains too, which looks at all the captains in the Star Trek lexicon and the Star Trek universe, and how they all approach their roles, and how they learn from each other, which is also very good. And also how Patrick Stewart was quite an unlikely choice for the role, and there was quite a bit of controversy around his being selected to be Jean-Luc Picard. And there's some real nice little hidden gems in there. I've always been a big Star Trek fan. I haven't watched Voyager. Isn't that the one with what's her name as the captain?
Kate Mulgrew. I liked her as the captain on that.
I've just never seen it.
I didn't watch all the episodes, but I tended that one for some reason I liked a little better than I was just never a Next Generation fan. DS9 didn't do it for me. The Enterprise one, I like Scott Bakula, but
yeah, he was very good. Yeah.
Now let me just tell you something about Patrick Stewart in Star Trek: The Next Generation. Remember, we're talking about a Shakespearean actor in his mid or late 40s.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Until he got that role, and I heard him say this story on Howard Stern, where he said he was maybe making, at his best, maybe a couple of £100 a week in the 80s, which is, maybe like making $250 a week in American money or something like that. And today it would be like making $300 or $400. The guy was making barely living wage. And he never made anything more like that. And suddenly he gets this job, and probably didn't take it seriously until he really got into it, because he's a very serious, dedicated actor. And suddenly he's getting $50,000 a week to be Captain Picard. And he never saw money like that before. I think he lived over somebody's garage or something for the first year, because he didn't feel that he was yet worthy of having money. Because remember, we're talking about a middle-aged guy who had never done anything but barely eke out a living as an actor.
Yeah, I mean, the only movie that I recalled ever seeing him in before he appeared on Star Trek, the TV series, was Excalibur. And, he has kind of a small supporting role in that. But his agent told him that the show would probably not even last a year, so he wasn't expecting much out of it, and it just took him by surprise. But Roddenberry didn't want him initially. He said, I can't have this middle-aged bald guy, being the follow-up to Kirk. And,
well, of course, he could always have Kirk without his hairpiece, and then he'd be a middle-aged bald guy.
Yeah, exactly.
But you see, it's very interesting here.
When they got towards the end of the season and he was putting on a paunch, that's when you'd see the episodes where Shatner would wear that wraparound uniform shirt because it was hiding his paunch.
Well, that's his fault. He needs to work out. Now, looking at salaries of TV, I was looking up the original Superman show from the 50s, where George Reeves was the highest paid actor on TV ever, making several $1,000s a week. But let's look at the people who appeared with him, like Jack Larson as Jimmy Olsen and Noel Neill as Lois Lane. They got like $200 an episode.
They killed him.
Probably. They got like $200 an episode. As a matter of fact, Noel Neill, after she finished playing Lois Lane, she ended up working in the publicity department of a movie company. She never acted again until they brought back her character for about 10 seconds in Superman the movie, where you see her as Lois Lane's mother, unidentified, on a train.
Yeah.
And the guy in that, and the guy who played her father, Lois Lane's father, was played by Kirk Alyn, who was the original movie Superman. And that's all the roles he could get, because after he appeared as Superman in 2 serials, Kirk Alyn played, I think, 1 other movie serial and then got practically no roles ever. His career was done. See, that's the difference in those days. You became a character who was a household name. You were so typecast you could never get another part. Nowadays, it's no big deal. Chris Pine, for example, is Captain Kirk, and then they brought him back as Jack Ryan, the Tom Clancy character. And then he's
characters are a revolving door for different actors.
Right. Well, there's a lot of stories about that, too. And then he now plays Steve Trevor in Wonder Woman. So he leads off a lot of different series, and nobody says, oh, this is Captain Kirk, you can't do that. It's a point where, oh, this is a good actor, and he could do that.
Yeah, exactly.
How do we get from Star Trek and all this stuff from aliens? Oh, because, of course, the way Star Trek depicted aliens was that realistic. And that takes us to it. But Star Trek was probably somewhat realistic in the sense of scientists, budding scientists, being so influenced by Star Trek, they wanted to bring those inventions to the world.
Right.
Like the StarTAC cell phone. Or like now they're looking into matter transmission, like a transporter. And we mentioned a couple of weeks ago, we had Mark D'Antonio on the Paracast. We talk about warp drive. Engage!
Handheld medical diagnostic devices are now have been developed. There's some real forward motion in that technology as well.
We've got more to come, including whether there are really Klingons out there. With Gene, Chris, and Walter Bosley, you're in
The Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
We use mobile devices right against our bodies every day, but growing scientific evidence has emerged showing serious health risks associated with exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The solution is Defender Shield, the most effective mobile radiation shielding ever developed. Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation from cell phones, tablets, and laptops, and starts at just $64.99. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. For 10% off, use promo code GCN. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in mobile radiation shielding.
Are you living your passion? Are you pumped to go to work because you get to talk about or work with or do the things that interest you the most? Is working, playing, and relaxing one and the same? As long as you're working for someone else, you'll never be living entirely true to yourself and your passion. I'm Pharmacist Keith. Let me show you how you can work around your current schedule, create the extra income so you can live your passion. Visit radio.recordedvideo.com. That's radio.recordedvideo.com. radio.recordedvideo.com.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
Walter Bosley's on the phone because Skype, Microsoft, and HP have conspired to prevent him from getting his computer to work. It's an HP computer, by the way, so if you want to know what not to buy, that's the one. And don't blame Meg Whitman, who is, I think, the CEO of one of the divisions of HP. Because she supports Hillary Clinton, your computer won't work.
I thought it was my Ferengi ear joke.
He has to put them on when he does Skype, by the way. You haven't seen what Walter looks like. He's wearing his Ferengi ears right now, right?
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. Yeah, I've got those on.
Oh, speaking of things that are coming, at the end of September, we've tentatively booked Stanton Friedman and Kathleen Marden for a new book entitled Fact, Fiction, and Flying Saucers. All right, folks?
That should be a good one.
Next week, we have Paul Davids.
All right. I thought we had Artie Six Killer Clark back on by popular demand.
Following week.
Okay.
And we're also working on Jim Mars. I think it's a perfect time for a little conspiracy, folks. Walter, you've explored lots of stuff. Do you subscribe to any of these conspiracy theories, JFK, 9/11, or any of that stuff?
Is that for me or Chris?
Chris's name is not Walter.
I missed my name. I don't buy that Oswald was the lone gunman, and sure, yeah, to me, it's a lot of the stuff. It just makes more sense than the BS that we're told.
You don't believe at all, though, that his accomplice was Ted Cruz's father?
Oh no, I don't. I don't. I don't think that.
How about Herbert Walker Bush being there on the steps of the book depository? I've seen the photographs. It's definitely him.
See, that's the thing, is that whole thing about how you don't get a clear answer, out of him as to where he was on that day.
He says he doesn't remember.
He doesn't remember? Okay, H.W., what happened then is that he was a Manchurian candidate. And someone calls him on the phone and says, Kayik, and he becomes an assassin. No, that didn't happen. But really, was that really H.W.?
Could have been a doppelganger.
It's his identical twin. If it's not, there's even a photograph that looks like W was there.
Which is impossible, unless you believe Andrew Basiago and the time travel stuff.
No, that's not true. I mean, the guy's 71, I think.
No, W. You said it looks like W's there.
Yeah, George W. Bush.
Right, by 1965, we're talking about a guy who would have been, 21?
No, he was 17, I think.
Oh, yeah, okay. Now that I think about it. Okay, so it looked like a really young W then.
All right, you're right, 17 in 1963. He was born in 1946, W.
Okay, so he's 70.
Exactly.
Well, Dan Rather, another interesting character who has made some interesting contradictory statements over the years about his exact whereabouts during the actual event. There's a lot of weird stuff.
Now, Dan Rather, by the way, is a Texan, I believe.
Right.
Yes, he is.
Okay. He is a Texan. There's a lot of interesting stuff that's surrounding that event. I think it actually is almost up there in one of the more significant paranormal events because of all the uncertainty and all the possibilities of multiple players unbeknownst to one another. It almost has a paranormal-esque sort of, orchestrated event on some other level. Like that had to happen, and they exhausted all, whoever they are, all efforts to make it happen because history needed that event to occur.
I'm looking here at Dan Rather. And I
am trying to bring back the paranormal into our paranormal show.
Okay, we're entering it here, too.
A good opportunity.
Dan Rather's 84, so he would have been, in 1963, 32 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. There it is. We solved the problem. Dan Rather did it.
He covered it for CBS.
Maybe that's the answer to the mystery of Kenneth, what is the frequency? Maybe it has something to do with the JFK thing.
No, I think it was how hot his wife was and how often.
But who was Kenneth?
Well, I know who killed Kennedy, the star beings from Zeta Reticuli.
There you go. There you go.
Who knows? Maybe it was some parallel universe, sort of, a quincunx event that.
I talk about it in both. What is it? Empire of the Wheel 3, I think, and I touch on it in Origins. But in Empire of the Wheel 3, I think it had something to do with the cabal that's doing the psychological black magic on the masses. The same
now
guys.
You're talking.
Yeah, the same guys that in my analysis I present in my I think it's Empire of the Wheel 3 that I get into this one, not number 2. I present a string of historical events. JFK's assassination is one of them. The 1986 shuttle disaster is another, and then 9/11, of course, is in that same line. For instance, with JFK. James Shelby Downard and Michael Hoffman have written that essay, King Kill 33, in which they point out all the Hecate symbolism and similar stuff connected and surrounding the whole JFK assassination milieu. And then, of course, it had the massive impact on the American psyche. And it was a similar impact that the shuttle disaster in 1986 had. And when you think about it, the shuttle disaster in 86, if it was an act of sabotage, or what I'm supposing that it is here, suggesting that it was kind of like the assassination of JFK all over again, because he's credited with, really kickstarting our space program vision. And so a lot of people associated, even after Apollo, our space program with JFK at that time. So by attacking us where, we had a lot of pride, our space program, it was like another little injection of the JFK thing on us. And
and it was that magical 23 years later.
Yeah, 23 years later, you name it. And in my analysis that I present in my books is that, this was done, on purpose to bring us, I think, where we are today, and that is at each other's throats, the extremes of the spectrum. I mean, think about it. You can't have a conversation for 5 minutes with anybody in America that politics doesn't enter into it. And think about this. People are deciding who they're going to friggin' socialize with or buy donuts from based on who they, support politically. I don't know about you guys, but that's heinous. It's sick.
Well, you know what it is, Walter? It's just an indication that no matter who wins, half of the country is going to
be unhappy.
Go ballistic.
Yeah,
well, let me tell you a statistic here, guys. Mm-hmm. And you've probably heard this. More than half of the Republicans do not believe Obama was born in America or is qualified to be president. In fact, it doesn't matter as long as his mother was a native-born American, so is he, wherever he was born. It doesn't matter.
You got to ask yourself, who does these polls? Anytime either side says X percentage of people, you gotta question polls on all sides and all sources, because people, a lot of times people doing polls are looking for. I know a lot of, Republican conservatives, and there's very few of them that think that, that I know personally. So but I get your point. And, by the same token, on the Democrat side, there's people there that think a lot of wacky, untrue stuff too about Bush and the other side. So that's my point, is the insanity is on both sides.
Let's go into that in a moment. A little bit of politics, folks. With Gene, Chris, and Walter, you're in
the Paracast.
The award-winning Graphic Converter 10, the universal genius for photo editing apps on your Mac. Join over 1.5 million loyal users for the Swiss Army Knife app. It gives you all the features that you expect, and most important, It's easy to use. You can get it for just $39.95 from www.lemkesoft.com. That's www.lemkesoft.com. Do you need a website? Well, you can get a great deal on hosting services with Namecheap's legendary coupon code. They're offering substantial hosting discounts on shared hosting, business hosting, VPS hosting, reseller hosting, and even dedicated servers. Namecheap is preferred by millions. It's backed by a money-back guarantee. Use the coupon code LEGENDARY to cash in on the special deal at Namecheap.com, Namecheap.com.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich, working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare, having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom106.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom, the number 106.com. Go to freedom106.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom106.com.
If you missed buying emergency food from the Patriotic Guys during their mega sale last month, be grateful. Even when they slashed their prices by 40%, you still get more food for your money from Ready Supply Foods. Ready Supply Foods sells 50 to 230% more food for your money, and we can prove it. With 23 delicious entrees, we also have 4 times the variety, too. Surviving a disaster is hard enough without worrying about starving to death. See how much more food you can get for your money at ReadySupplyFoods.com today.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Slingbow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of Slingbow, a new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
We're not favoring any political candidate, folks. We're getting into, I guess, a little bit of the political arena, but just briefly on the Paracast with Walter Bosley as our guest and a surprise guest kind of expected momentarily. So what's happening here is that you have a polarized society where each side believes something pretty wacky about the other side. So the Republicans believe that Obama is fake, that he's really a Muslim, a secret Muslim, and that he wasn't born in the USA.
That's the trees that people aren't backing up to see the forest. Remember, in my opinion, what we're talking about here in general is a result of these acts of mass psychological magic that has been repeatedly done to our society.
Yeah, good point. Bring it back to the point.
So the point is that people believe this nonsense, and each side has its own brand of nonsense to believe in. They
that?
believe this because they've been brainwashed by the media? What?
That's part of it. They get brainwashed by the media. They get brainwashed by their peers who, here's the thing. A lot of people really cling to the whole group mentality. They got to be part of the group. They got to be accepted in a group, okay? And so if the leader, the natural leader of that particular social group, if they think something, if they have an opinion, all the little followers will agree with that opinion, just to agree with it. And it becomes, unfortunately, a conventional wisdom or an alleged, just an accepted fact, when actually, if you look closer, it's just an opinion, or it's just a crazy conclusion. It's just crazy nonsense that people just want to believe in because it's emotion-based and it makes them feel good to just retreat into an attitude as opposed to maybe actually look at the facts. And the other unfortunate thing is when you do look at the facts and you find, facts that support, maybe some negative truth about whoever it is they favor, they don't want to hear that.
Yeah,
and they
like for instance, all this last week or two, we've been seeing all this very interesting speculation about Hillary Clinton's health, and the fact that she's been going into these weird freeze-ups, these these like kind of weird facial reactions to events around her, like when they dropped the balloons, that crazy wide-eyed, open mouth look that she had, and waving her head around and having a hard time getting upstairs, having a doctor, a neurologist standing next to her with one of these inject through the clothing injectors, and some pretty interesting stuff. I mean, we're looking at the Clinton Foundation is hanging on by a thread from being, really going into some serious criminal proceedings for some of the very nefarious dealings.
Okay, we're now looking at the partisan viewpoint here about that, which is that what Sean Hannity says on Fox News is that Hillary has a serious illness.
Well, stop. That's not a partisan viewpoint. No. He's telling things that are actual observable facts, and it gets called partisan because it's inconvenient to the people who are partisan on the issue in favor of Hillary.
Those on the other side will say, we'll look at the business record of Donald Trump, 6 bankruptcies, hundreds of thousands of people being ripped off by him, calling for better trade policies, and all his merchandise is built overseas.
Okay, well, this is my point.
And nobody's saying that those aren't facts either. But it's just interesting how one particular side, when you point out the facts about that individual, you get a hemming and hawing and a big, ironically, a big wall put in front of you. And
what is the
there
upside?
are those of us who are outside the whole thing that are just tired of both sides doing that stuff.
The bottom line, the upshot of all of this is that we have the two of the most tarnished candidates in history individually. Let's say only one was running against, your regular rank and file Republican or Democrat. We have 2 of the most tarnished candidates ever, both in the same election. And there's an outside possibility that both of them might be taken down. Now, what would happen if that happened?
Well, because of who's president and who is attorney general and who appointed her, I don't expect her to be taken down unless she does something so overt, or her illness, if it is as bad as some people might think, if her illness takes her down. Right, I don't think it's going to happen. Now, on the other side, they have just an equal problem, too, because if they try to take down Trump and prevent him from completing the campaign, there are over 13 million people out there who voted for him over 16 other candidates, and it's going to be a bloodbath.
His own party is trying to take him down.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Mitt and all these other guys, but as far as the bloodbath goes, there's just as much hostile aggression on the opposite side, among their ranks. And my point is, let's set all the politics, the partisan stuff aside. That right there is the heart of what's going on here. Let's see, is they want the people in this constant state of opposition and aggression. They want the people to be distracted from what's really going on, keeping us divided by the fanatics.
Who's they?
They, the people who I think were behind things like the JFK assassination and 9/11, I associate them with this mysterious NIMSA, these globalists. It's the globalists who are behind this stuff, okay?
Okay, are the globalists the breakaway civilization?
The breakaway civilization called NIMSA, this is my opinion now from my analysis, the breakaway civilization identified as NIMSA is, yes, the breakaway involved in this, yeah. That's what I think. The breakaway that is meddling, the breakaway that, even though they're a breakaway, they're not detached from our world entirely, and they basically want to control it and run it. This is the same breakaway that was behind the rise of the Nazis. This is why the modern Nazi International, as Joseph Farrell calls it, in my opinion, is they are a deputy of, an arm of the NIMSA. The NIMSA is behind them. And the Nazi International, they're behind the globalists, because it's just that age-old vision of, one group wanting to rule the whole world. That'll never go away. There will always be that. That's why it's up to the rest of us who are opposed to that to always oppose it.
Well, 2 billion...
And that will go on forever.
2 billion Chinese are going to have something to say about all this.
Well, they have exactly. I mean, look at these military islands that they're building throughout the Pacific. Look what they're doing. They just unveiled a 1,320-ton statue of the god of war.
Hey, we're going to talk about Thor or whatever in a moment. We've got Walter Bosley with the big hammer from Thor. And Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Do you ever feel like you're being watched? Like someone or some company is tracking your every move online? I know I do. That's why I trust Private Internet Access VPN to keep me safe when I'm online. I use it to encrypt my traffic and use an anonymous IP address. Private Internet Access keeps your internet traffic safe from unwanted eyes so you can finally feel safe. $40 a year for peace of mind is a no-brainer. Sign up today at privateinternetaccess.com. Once again, that's privateinternetaccess.com.
Attention backpackers on a budget. Why spend $80 to $300 to pump clean survival water? Introducing the Viva water pump kit from Viva Outdoor Products. Super easy to use and super lightweight at only 6.5 ounces, the Viva water pump kit provides high flow rate at 1 ounce per stroke, can be one-hand pumped, and is dependable and affordable at only $24.99. Filter not included. Get your Viva water pump kit at viba-odp.com from Viva Outdoor Products.
Have you ever thought you'd like to flip houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? Are you ready to be your own boss so you can start living the good life? Hi, I'm Preston Ely. I used to be so broke. I had my electricity turned off 9 times, but I figured out a way to quit my job and find financial freedom in real estate. For a limited time, I want to send you a free copy of my smash hit selling book, How to Get Rich in Real Estate. It shows you how to copy exactly what I did so you can make money from the comfort of your own home without even doing any manual labor. I've already given away 5,000 books and they're going fast. To get one before they're gone, call 1-800-958-9859. Listen, if you're sick and tired of stressing about money, this book could change your life. It's short, fun to read, easy to understand, and awesome. To find out how to get your free book while supplies last, call 1-800-958-9859. Call 1-800-958-9859. 1-800-958-9859.
To a professional trader in precious metals, the key is spot price.
spot price is market price, what gold or silver actually costs on the exchange. Regular people looking to invest never get spot price because resellers add fees for everything. Refining, minting, brokerage costs, commissions. The public is never offered spot price until now. In a limited new customer outreach, JM Bullion offers you the chance to own a 10-ounce bar of pure silver at spot price. No fees, commissions, markups, not even a shipping cost. Now, through JM Bullion, own the most real investment of all at real cost. Not a piece of paper from Wall Street or a bank. A 10-ounce bar of silver at spot price. That's a solid investment. But you must act now. Go online to realpricesilver.com for this limited time offer. That's realpricesilver.com. realpricesilver.com. Limit one offer per household, 50 United States only. Dangerous blood clot device alert. If you or a loved one had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to your heart or lungs and suffered an injury, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, and even death. These dangerous blood clot devices can break, and the metal fragments can travel to your heart or lungs, causing serious injuries. If you or a loved one suffered organ damage or other injuries from an IVC filter, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hi, this is James Fox from Chasing UFOs. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So here what's happening is we're going to hammer sense into some people to explain why all this craziness is going on. So all this, Walter, is being influenced by this other agency.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I think.
They killed Kennedy to bring to bear certain societal changes that we all expected.
Well, they were behind the guys who had a stake in Kennedy being killed, but what they did was they orchestrated it in such a spectacularly public way to serve the purpose of this shock magic to the psyche of the American public. See, they needed, particularly after World War II, they needed to break the psyche of the American public. Okay, they needed to screw with the people because they knew if they screwed with the people this way, it'd be easier to get, their kind of people into our government. And, not that everybody was wonderful and perfect before that, but, we're talking about the era they're working with. That was their particular method, serving that objective.
Right. Then they gave us the Beatles to make everything seem all right.
That's right. That's right. The Beatles, and then Happy Days, and then, you name it, through the decades, whatever appeases us.
Hey. What a mess this world is.
By design, it's supposed to be that way. The nature of it, we're never going to change the nature of our reality. There's always going to be conflict because that is the stage upon which we test human character. We see who emerges to not tolerate the bad stuff. We see, this is what it's all about, I think, is to test our character.
Well, not only that, but people in fear and turmoil tend to be easily controlled.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. And that's one of the tactics of the people who buy off on the, this one world thing is a good idea, sacrifice yourself individuals for the good of the collective. I'm one of those who I see the inherent evil and wrongness in that idea of the collective hive. So, as long as I live and breathe, I'll oppose it. And, there's those who really, really think it's a great idea. Usually history shows that they think it's a great idea until, they actually experience it, and then they don't think it's such a great idea anymore. But,
usually, yeah, and no wonder the physics community is trying to create doorways into other dimensions in Switzerland to try to get the hell off this planet.
Well, I'll tell you what, sign me up.
That's why I'm a fan of, the other breakaway that I refer to as the 1903. I think they truly broke away. And people say, well, why don't they help us? Well, help your damn self first. They broke away. They got fed up. This is my opinion. This is my theory. They got fed up and they said, screw you, we're going somewhere else. And they went somewhere else. And, honestly, call it cynicism or whatever at this point in my life, I don't blame them.
Sounds kind of like rats and sinking ships. And
well, I don't see them as rats. I'm
not saying a rat is bad. I mean, when a ship is
I see what you're saying.
the rat wants to leave.
It's like I wrote in the Origin book, and I might have touched on this in Empire of the Wheel 2 or 3, but, they saw a little over 100 years ago, the direction things were going, and, they took their shot. They took their chance. And, I get into the details in that, and people can take it or leave it. I mean, there's those who prefer to leave it. But, that's my position on it. And, if you're setting aside whether they did this or not, whatever, you're just talking about the ethics or the philosophy of it, I have great admiration for them because I'd like to do the same thing if I could. I'd say, screw all of you. I'm out of here if I could. Because it's nonsense. It's gotten to the point where, everybody's just so wrapped up in the every little detail, and they're not being able to see the forest for all the trees that they're clinging to. And that's not just in politics. It's in everything. And they don't see that this is part of that unsettled, chaotic state that their psyches have been put into to keep them from thinking clearly and objectively. And, it's very frustrating, to sit and watch this because, you're just watching the tactic of the guys who want to tear it all apart and create a society that's more easily controllable. You're watching them succeed the longer this goes on. The last thing they want is for... Here's the last thing they want. The last thing they want is the group on the right and the group on the left to kind of stop bickering and say, hey, wait a minute, we got more in common with each other than we do with these guys who are running everything. They don't want that. They're scared to death of that because once that happens, then they're really under the spotlight and possibly in trouble. So they
Blood
keep
will
us.
Flow, heads will roll.
Yeah, and I'm not the first and only guy to say this. I do see this, and I have my specific values. I have my specific desires that I'd like to see, but I'm also practical. I'm able to live next door, to the guys who might not agree with me on every little point because basically we agree that, basic human stuff. We want to live in a nice neighborhood. We want to prosper. We want to be able to feel like we've got a shot at, fairly taking care of our own and maybe getting somewhere in life. We want to be basically able to live, free where, it doesn't matter if the person's in this party or that party because we have that basic idea. Well, right now, they're trying to, drive a wedge in between people like that by having everybody the first criteria, like I said earlier, I'm not going to buy donuts from that guy because he's this party, or I'm not going to, hang out with that person that I've known for 25 years because all of a sudden, they like a presidential candidate that I don't. I mean, come on. This is insane, but people are doing it. People are doing it. Here's the thing. If I based whether I agreed with actors in Hollywood politically or not on whether I see movies, I'd never watch movies again. Because I think, politically, 90% of those people are idiots. I'm not going to take my political lead from, a bunch of actors just because they're famous. The heck with that. They're awesome at what they do in the movie.
Let's storm the Bastille. Make my day.
But you don't care then if an actor talks to an empty chair on TV, but he's a great actor, a great screenwriter, a great director.
Or hold on, or some guy who believes in global warming and all this stuff goes on and on and on about it while flying around a jet around the world, there's both sides here, Gene, on this, okay? There's, the wackadoodles on the left in Hollywood who think all this ridiculous stuff. I mean, some of them are just some of the greatest actors, and I love their movies and stuff. But, personally, their opinions, I think, are hogwash.
Well, you don't have to listen to their opinions, and that's the thing. We have all these terrific performers, and they have different levels of opinions, some of which are wacky, some of which are less so. But when you see somebody on the screen playing a role, it doesn't matter if that actor is gay or straight. It doesn't matter if he or she is conservative, liberal, or some kind of unknown political viewpoint you don't care about. You don't care if they're communicating or channeling with beings from Zeta Reticuli.
No.
What difference does it make?
If you're watching a movie, you paid to see a movie, and, they're awesome in that movie, I don't care what they think personally, at all. I'm there to see them do what they do. I don't care what they think I ought to do with my money. They can just keep that to themselves.
So let me just summarize it. So it doesn't matter then what their beliefs are, but certainly we have freedom of speech in America. They have the right to speak up. They have the right to say anything they want within the normal limitations, even if it's totally wacky, has no relationship to the truth. If they want to be whack jobs, they can be whack jobs. So anyway, we could be whack jobs too. And some people think we are. We've got Walter Bosley. We've got Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
We also have swag. We have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got 60 or so different items, and entails T-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast Jumbo tote bag, all sorts of T-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great T-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
There is an affordable alternative to the high cost of healthcare that offers freedom from insurance while providing compliance with the Obamacare individual mandate. Imagine having access to quality, affordable healthcare that allows you the freedom to choose your doctor and hospital. Members can share up to 100% of necessary medical expenses, including some alternative treatments. Find out how you and your family can contain healthcare costs without giving up your freedom. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson. Injury Help Desk is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisements. Services may not be available in all states. Attention prescription antibiotic drug users. Have you or a loved one suffered an aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, or abdominal aortic aneurysm after taking the prescription antibiotic drugs Levaquin or Avelox? These popular antibiotic drugs have been prescribed more than 80 million times since 2004, and medical studies show an increased risk of the following injuries: aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, and abdominal aortic aneurysm. If you or a loved one used the prescription antibiotic drugs Levaquin or Avelox and suffered from aortic dissection, aortic aneurysm, or abdominal aortic aneurysm, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. You may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-823-3851. 800-823-3851. 800-823-3851.
Has neck, back, or shoulder pain got you down? Go to sunshine-pillows.com and get soothing comfort, support, and pain relief fast. Their microwavable heat therapy pillows and wraps treat neck and shoulder pain, reduce stress, and relax the soul. An ergonomic pillow from Sunshine Pillows supports your head and neck on long trips or when simply resting at home. Be good to yourself. Visit sunshine-pillows.com. sunshine-pillows.com.
Hey, this is Marie D. Jones, the author of This Book is from the Future, and you are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So this is the Whack Job Show, sometimes called the Paracast. All right, so the feeling here, Walter Bosley, is that all this craziness going on, we're trying to be equal opportunity offenders here. So we'll offend both sides or neither. There has to be an end game. Does that mean that society is going to come falling apart in the next few years? What?
Honestly, what it is, the end game is there's people that don't like. They don't like how we do things in America. They haven't liked it, and they've needed to bring us down. And so the end game is to finally bring us down, to make us conquerable. And I mean literally conquerable by invasion, whatever you want to call it, okay? They're trying to break our will. They're trying to break our spirit so that we won't resist or fight, something overt. That's what they're trying to do. Now, whether that's another country or it's, a private organization or a philosophical organization, you name it. I think it's a combination of all of that. And I think that's the end game. The end game is to bring us down, to conquer us.
Where do the UFOs enter into this?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of the UFO activity, and I've said this before elsewhere for quite a while, a lot of the UFO activity people are seeing is actually advanced military technology. And then, of course, there's the breakaway issue, the breakaway technology. And I think the UFO thing is mostly being used against us. They're convincing a lot of people, and they have a lot of people convinced that 90% of it are these ETs, and even worse, that they assume it's benevolent ETs, because that's going to be used against us. They want to convince us of this bogus ET invasion thing. That's where I'm at. Now, I'm not saying anywhere in there that ET doesn't exist. Of course, I think ET exists out there, but I think what's going on here, as far as all this UFO stuff, and is greatly a huge manipulation to serve the globalist idea. Okay, that's what I think.
So this is something that's being created by them to divert our attention. So when people say they're abducted by UFO people. That's some kind of misdirection. Maybe it's sleep paralysis. Maybe it's drug-induced by some
I think it might even be, you got to consider that it's abductions, but it's a very earthly organization doing it. Hallucinations that are drug-induced during the process so that they come away with these wild stories that it'll be really hard for most people to believe and accept. So that it's easier. They're hiding under the cover of the fantasy and hallucinations. The people who are the abductors. Yeah, I think that's what's going on.
Oh boy, we're in really deep trouble here, aren't we? The same thing, I guess, would be true when people think they're in touch with star beings from Zeta Reticuli, really hot star beings.
It's more likely that there's some deception going on there, yeah. Not that a real contact with real ETs doesn't happen. I'm just saying there's probably, here's the thing, when you look at it closely and you give it an honest look, the whole UFO phenomenon and all the things related to it, when you give it a close look, what you find is that there's a deception going on, or you find that there's something more along the lines of the trickster and the hidden others going on. Go back and review, Jacques Vallée's stuff. He's on the right track, I think. There's something going on here that gets rejected in favor of the classic ET thing. Something equally amazing, but also at the same time, there's, a big deception thing going on, But the ET thing is popular.
I was noticing here just one question from one of our listeners in the forums. I'm going to ask the one thing from Technomage, and I know Chris normally asks questions, but I just want to turn things around. Would any of the known public elites be candidates as members of either organization? Like people like Soros and the Rockefellers and Brzezinski and Kissinger and all that.
Yeah,
so
all
are
of
one
that,
of these candidates like a Manchurian candidate who represents these other interests?
Okay, wait a minute. You went from one thing to the Manchurian candidate thing.
Well, I'm saying that one of these elites may be members of one of these globalist groups, and I think that's part of it. Either deliberately or accidentally, they're in there.
When I hear people say, Bilderberger, Rockefeller, Soros, blah, 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 these are the trees of the forest. Step back from that, and in big picture forest, I see NIMSA behind those kinds of guys. Like I said before, really you're looking at NIMSA, in my opinion.
We have a special guest who's going to join us right now, just out of the blue. He just beamed in from wherever he was, using a transporter beam or something. Alejandro Rojas, how are you, my friend?
Good. Skype is updating itself and improving itself, and of course, when it does that, it kind of screwed everything up.
Well, that's what happened to our regular guest, Walter Bosley here, where his computer gave up completely.
Oh, no. Luckily, my computer's good. I think everything is figured out. For some reason, of course, lots of Skype weirdness, but it appears to be good now. Yay.
So, Walter, you haven't met Alejandro yet, have you?
No, I have not. Hello, Alejandro.
Hello, Walter.
Well, there we go. The conversation just died.
I've met Alejandro.
Yes, many, many times. All the way back to the Colorado days.
Yeah, it's been
a while.
I
may have got to first meet you in the legendary San Luis Valley. I don't remember our first meeting, but it might have been actually in the valley.
I think it was. I think I did meet you once or possibly twice. Well, I was still back there, so this would have been around 2000, 2001, I think.
Yeah, yep. Good times. Beautiful out there. Actually, some friends of ours, mutual friends from the MUFON here in Arizona, went out there not too long ago and went to the UFO Watchtower.
Oh, yeah.
So they were there for all along the Watchtower.
Exactly.
Yeah, now I know why your mother was the only one that laughed at your jokes.
That was my mother-in-law.
Oh, your mother-in-law, sorry.
My mother never laughed, I don't think. I never heard her laugh. I used to say to my mother, "Do you remember laughter?"
Really? How did she like that? That probably didn't make her laugh.
Yeah.
And she said she remembered it before you were born, yeah, right? That'd be like a mom thing to say. That's more like a dad thing to say.
After I was born, she remembered nothing.
Well, Alejandro, you missed out. We were talking about the aliens coming to solve all our political, emotional, and cultural problems.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, wouldn't it?
Yep. You know, I had a good friend, Franklin Carter. I don't know if any of you know him. He is from Wyoming. but he used to come to Colorado events.
Yeah, I know him. He's the
often,
biologist,
and
right?
that's how I knew him. Yeah, he has a company where he does kind of animal nutrition and stuff like that.
Right.
And he used to work on the DEW line in the Navy, and he had a sighting. Well, he actually used to work on the radar systems, and he said his thing was they installed these new radars that could see really far out. They started seeing, weird things moving in the sky, unknowns. And it was kind of funny because they would call him up, Carter, come take a look at the radar system. And he would say it's working fine. So they used to call him Carter's Contacts because they would call him up to look at it. Finally, they kept putting in reports that the radar was screwed up. And he says that instead of fixing it, they just limited how far out the radar could see.
Oh, is that like putting your head in the sand, I think?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm getting to how it relates to this eventually. But just some background on Franklin because it's an interesting story. Later on, he asked some of his colleagues that had these radars installed on their ships. And he said, well, didn't you guys have problems and see these things? And they said, sure. And he's like, didn't you guys report them? And they said, no, there's no way we're going to report that. They'd think we're crazy. So it was kind of a funny thing. And he did get a lot of heck. In fact, he got made fun of for Carter's contacts. But later on in life, he does lectures. He took over Leo Sprinkle's conference, the Rocky Mountain UFO conference or something like that in Wyoming while that was happening. But he used to always say in his lectures, if it happens, if disclosure happens, if contact happens, people get a little really excited about it, like it's going to change our worlds. But
we've got to change a little bit right now. And when we're back, we'll have Alejandro Rojas, our special drop-in guest, Walter Bosley, Gene, and Chris. It just gets more exciting by the moment. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors, classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
This is an alert. If your business or church is building this year, you're about to pay more than you should. This could mean thousands of dollars more for your office, retail space, church, or warehouse. A General Steel building can save you as much as half the cost and time of similar conventional construction. And we're offering rebates of up to $20,000 to help you build today. Call General Steel for free information that could save you thousands. Call 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL.
Are your Google search results killing you? Unflattering content in blogs, news articles, online reviews, social media, or other sources can jeopardize your reputation, your business, and your livelihood. Let Reputation.com help. Our patented technology will make the truth about you more visible while pushing down unwanted negative content. Improve your Google search results. Call Reputation.com at 1-800-831-0771 for a free consultation. That's 800-831-0771.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
You have this special voice you've been hiding from us, Alejandro.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take? Because we've been talking about...
When I wear a cape.
You wear a cape?
I wanted to finish that. What I use that voice when I wear a cape as.
I'm Batman.
That sounds like a geriatric Batman. No offense, but
Well, I think the role that Ben Affleck is playing is an almost geriatric Batman in the new movies.
I haven't even seen it, and it's surprising it's already out on Netflix or something streaming. Or it was a big bomb, I guess, huh?
It's crazy. Batman v Superman made close to $900 million, but they regard it as a bomb because it didn't go over $1 billion, and a lot of people hated it. It's in Blu-ray, and there's a special edition that adds 30 minutes of deleted footage. It's one of the best-selling Blu-rays in recent years.
Really? Wow.
And of course, that's Ben Affleck as Batman. I don't know where we started this. No, we want to get your take, Alejandro, because we've talked about it quite a bit. We've, of course, mentioned this with Richard Dolan and Joseph Farrell and our guest here, Walter Bosley, about breakaway civilizations, one or more, that may be in control of things.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your take on that?
I think it's a really interesting thought. I think it's fun to speculate about.
I hear
it's a big
but.
You're hearing a big but.
And not that kind of big but, folks.
No, not the kind that Sir Mix-a-Lot raps about. But there's absolutely no evidence, and I don't see it at all. I mean, this is what the problem is with conspiracy theories, and a lot of these conspiracy theories. A lot of the people that hold most tightly to conspiracy theories have done little to no outreach to actually get to know what these systems actually work like, to talk to the people who work in those systems, visit the people who work in there, to figure out how these things actually work so they can see for themselves how their conspiracy may work or fit into things. And that's what's really frustrating, because all of these people these people talk about are, for the most part, accessible. You can find out who the CEOs of all the more major corporations who are working on black projects are. You can find out who the engineers are. You can find out who the journalists are that work for the newspapers, who owns those newspapers. You can find out information about them, their backgrounds. You know, when you look into how things really work, it's much, much more mundane. Luckily, I've done work in politics. I'm in journalism. I work with mainstream journalists. And this is what gets really frustrating, because part of this conspiracy is all about this control of the media, is that I've held panels at our conferences with people who work in mainstream journalism. These are people who people typically respect, people like George Knapp, Lee Spiegel, Bryce Zabel, who's worked in the film industry, Paul Davids, who's worked in the film industry. Even though he's a conspiratorial, it's not around the media. They've worked in the media, and they'll tell you there's no conspiracy. There's stupidness. There's ignorance. There's a hesitance to put their butt on the line for an issue, and really, unless it's pure entertainment or fun. That's what gets really frustrating is, you know, there's absolutely zero evidence for any breakaway society. It's fun to think about it, make a great science fiction story.
Zero evidence is a bit extreme.
I don't think so. What evidence is there?
You know, books have been written on this. I've got 2 books that present evidence on it. Dolan has presented it. Joseph Farrell's presented it.
But Joseph Farrell, again, he's speculative. Everything he has is a total speculation.
Alejandro, that is absolutely not true.
What you've just said is opinion.
That's true.
That's absolutely not true. Alejandro, his books are filled with documentation. He just strings it all together.
I disagree.
Alejandro, you just expressed a bunch of opinion as if it was fact, and that's the problem also.
I did not express these as their fact. I mean, I will agree with you 100%. Those are my opinions.
Identify them as such, then. Give the listener the opportunity to decide whether they want to agree with your opinion. You shouldn't express the opinion as if it's the conventional wisdom opinion, because it's not. There's people out there that would completely disagree with you.
Well, it certainly is the conventional wisdom, I would say, that although
okay,
it's
maybe
not
the wrong choice of phrase, but you know what I mean.
There are other opinions out there, but I mean, it's not like we're all in our conversations prefacing this is only my opinion. But yes, it's only my opinion.
For my part, I make the effort even more so now maybe than I even used to say, hey, this is my opinion, because I understand that some of the things I say are are my opinion. And,
well, what is this evidence other than I want to know what this evidence is? I really don't see any evidence for any breakaway society.
Okay. I presented it in such with the NIMSA. I mean, I'm not going to read my books here, in the few minutes we have here. There's the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower did indeed warn about. That's not fantasy. That's not a conspiracy theory. There's over a century of evidence for this. It sounds like what you need to do is maybe read up more on the subject rather than, if you're asking where's the evidence, that tells me you haven't really looked at it or you went into it prepared to dismiss it.
Well, that's not true at all.
You can say you disagree with the evidence that's presented, but to say, where is it, well, that would take a couple of whole other shows to go through all of that.
Alejandro, have you read any of Joseph Farrell's books?
I have, and I've looked into, especially with the German aspect, I've looked a lot into all of those things. Typically, I went into this thinking that there is more to it than I found there was. There certainly is a military-industrial complex. There's no doubt about that. There is secrecy. And maybe we're not referring to the same thing when we talk about a breakaway society. There definitely are people working in secrecy. There are corporations doing their own thing under the veil of secrecy that debatably, I would argue, is often undemocratic in that there is little oversight from the government. But when I think of the breakaway society, as Dolan, for instance, talks about it, he talks about actual, like a hidden civilization, people, families, a society living with access and using on a regular basis technologies that the regular public does not have access to, and that is hidden from regular society. That's the sort of thing that I'm talking about that I don't see. There certainly could be.
Fair enough. You just disagree with that aspect of it, and I would venture to say that I probably disagree with certain degrees of what Dolan has said. I'm by no means a Dolan disciple, but really, when you get down to it, it's your opinion that these things can't be so. It's not that it is clearly demonstrable that it's not so, and as long as there's that percentage of possibility that it could be so, I think that flavors the evidence that's presented out there enough to be considered. I mean, just the financial stuff alone. You have someone like Catherine Austin Fitts, who was an undersecretary for HUD, and she wasn't a believer in any of this stuff until she started looking at, wow, look at the funny, weird stuff that's going on with this money. And she came to the conclusion on her own that, long story short, she came to the breakaway thing based on her experience as an undersecretary of HUD, which carries with it as much credential as any of the journalists you mentioned. I would say more so in some of their cases. And, she has come to this conclusion that there's a breakaway thing going on here, essentially a breakaway thing going on here, which, again, the finer points, like in Dolan's definition, might be something she would disagree with. But, there are serious people, professionals respected in their fields that, would disagree with you as much as there are who would agree. And, I'm just saying that, it's wiser, I think, to acknowledge that.
Well, at least a possibility. What about Gary McKinnon's 140 some odd off-planet naval officers?
This is what's frustrating, guys.
Let me break it here and we'll figure this out. More to come with Alejandro and Walter and Gene and Chris. You're in the Paracast. The award-winning Graphic Converter 10, the universal genius for photo editing apps on your Mac. Join over 1.5 million loyal users for the Swiss Army Knife app. It gives you all the features that you expect, and most important, it's easy to use. You can get it for just $39.95 from www.lemkesoft.com. That's www.lemkesoft.com. As you know, neighbors, web hosting can be pretty cheap, but not all hosting is the same. DreamHost wins Best of Awards year after year. You get unlimited disk space, unlimited bandwidth, and even the low-cost plans put your sites on high-performance SSDs. Want to know more about what DreamHost has to offer? Go to technightowl.com/host. Once again, that's technightowl.com/host.
You're fired. According to the Small Business Administration, 75% of small businesses plan to eliminate jobs or reduce workers' hours to part-time. You're fired. According to Gallup, the unemployment rate recently jumped to nearly 9%, and the underemployment rate hit a staggering 17.9%. You're fired. 1 out of 3 young adults and 1 out of 2 recent college graduates are underemployed. Hello, I'm Keith Abel, a pharmacist and a home business entrepreneur. In 2011, I became one of those statistics myself. Instead of looking for another job in corporate America, I joined Dr. Joel Wallach, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy. We're creating steady incomes for ourselves and would like to show you how to do the same. If you want to supplement your current income, replace your income, so you don't have to become one of the statistics, then give me a call toll-free at 866-257-3105, 866-257-3105. You're fired. Don't wait till you hear those words. Start creating an extra income today. 866-257-3105.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Sling bow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of sling bow. A new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size. For incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency, get to goberkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. goberkey.com.
This is Robert Hastings, author of UFOs and Nukes, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Debating breakaway civilizations, Walter Bosley versus Alejandro Rojas. Alejandro?
Oh, and Chris O'Brien. I'm taking on Chris, too, here.
Oh, you are? You're not taking me on, though.
I don't quite go as far. I think I'm a little bit more conservative, I think, than Richard and Walter. But I've read enough and I've researched enough to have a strong suspicion that some of this material is true and that we are out of the loop with some pretty exotic technologies that are being utilized, are operational. That much I can say. And when you have somebody hacking the Pentagon and coming up with a list of names of
allegedly
naval officers.
Allegedly coming up to
allegedly,
this
yeah, true.
This guy, Gary McKinnon,
like that do indicate that we we do have something going on. Ben Rich's comments, of course, Ben Rich was the founder and head of the Skunk Works, the Lockheed Skunk Works, saying we have the technology to take ET home. We figured out the missing part of the formula. Enigmatic statements like that are enough.
Allegedly.
Plus, knowing somebody who worked at Skunk Works, who was on the team that designed inertial navigation for stealth, some of the things that I was told by him would indicate that there is an exalted level of technology that is very black, very secret, and is not completely immersed into the government world, but is also in the private sector.
Now, I would agree with a lot of what you said. However, the references that you make are third-hand references to things that people are just remembering from events that happened long ago. In Gary McKinnon's case, he admits he was drunk and he was stoned while he was hacking. He was using essentially his hacking skills amounted to trying to hack into computers that had the password set as password and user set as user. He says out of the couple of things that he saw, he says he saw this list of non-terrestrial people or non-terrestrial officers, but he has no detail, nor did he have the foresight to save any of that stuff. And then when it comes to the Ben Rich comments, those are what a couple of people remembered Ben Rich saying. But of course, the nuances of what he said is really important, for which they'll admit they don't know exact word for word what he had said. Whereas friends of Ben Rich's talk about him referencing these sort of things, but not in that same light. Regardless, possibility. The issue with possibility is anything is possible. These arguments that you guys are raising, many of these for the Breakaway Society, are the same sort of things that Dr. Greer, who I know many of you are not a fan of, can use to say, well, it's a possibility, that I'm talking to aliens and that we're filming aliens and we're talking to aliens when we go out on our outings. In fact, he has witnesses there who say, yeah, we saw aliens, we saw UFOs, we saw alien spacecraft.
I'm at a disadvantage here, Alejandro, because I never met you. Where do you come from? What do you advocate?
I don't advocate. I research and write.
I'm honestly asking that not from a hostile. I just don't know.
No,
like,
I know.
I know. Who does this,
no, I'm
that,
answering your question. Trust me. And I think you guys could agree. I'm not the type of guy to get real defensive or to hold to my opinion that I have the final word on things. I certainly do not at all. In fact, like I say often, I could be completely wrong about things. It's just that what I have done is I write about this stuff on a daily basis, like Chris and others, and I've spent a lot of time researching all of these different things.
Oh, but do you come from a skeptic viewpoint? Do you come from a particular position on this stuff yourself? Which camp are you in, would you say, if you had to nutshell it?
Yeah, I would say currently, and I would like to give a little bit of history, currently I'm in the skeptic camp, if there's a camp, but that's not always the case. I came from the other side. I came from the side to look into these things as if, I felt that there was more to them. I was believing the people in this field who hold these beliefs and espouse these beliefs. But when I began to write about these things and, using some journalistic integrity, looking for facts and references, I found that the references were often third-hand, and a lot of it was skeptical. And so that's where I come from.
A lot of us use journalistic integrity, not all of us, but
and I'm not saying you don't.
I know Joseph does. I'm sure Dolan tries to.
Well, and I'm similar. I started out being a little bit more open-minded, I think, 25 years ago when I started out in this field actively. And as I've gone through these years, I've become more and more and more conservative, more and more skeptical. I think, like Alejandro, I try to keep myself open to possibility, and I do try to.
Too. I've gone through that same thing. I agree with you guys there. I've become more, what you just said, a little bit more, what's the word, reserved and down to earth on some things. Sure, yeah, that's reasonable.
Like I'm a really skeptical about any sort of off-planet intelligences visiting this planet. I really think that we're dealing with something that's as terrestrial as we are, if not more so. Another tenant in the building. That to me would make more sense than something off-planet, for instance. And
I agree with
in
that.
this realm is a very conservative view.
I'd agree with that.
You see how that conversation died down pretty quickly, huh?
Well, yeah, I'd say, where do we go from here? So, I mean, for instance, I blog for the Huffington Post. My focus is not on the UFO community. It's on the mainstream, and I feel there is a lot of really credible, great information to show that there is a phenomenon. There's something really here. If I'm going to go to the public with other types of stories, I think for credibility's sake, I need to be able to back that up. So I am a little harsher on these things because I'm looking for the good references, the credible references, so that I can go for some of these things, because I would like to figure out, because I think it's a complete mystery. Triangular UFOs, for instance, who the hell is making these and why? I mean, what's going on? There are witnesses who have seen some extraordinary things, who are certain that these things are not made by man, whereas there are witnesses who have seen them closely who believe that they are certainly man-made. If they're man-made, of course, that opens up another host of questions. So, there's a lot of mystery out there. I'm just looking for the real solid, credible kind of building blocks to take us to the answers.
That's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah, I would agree with.
I wrote a 600-page book that's filled with documentation, that's filled with facts, that's filled with analysis of physical evidence, that is extremely conservative about the cattle mutilation phenomenon. Conservative in the sense that most people want to believe that aliens are coming in and gathering genetic material from cattle. I absolutely don't buy into that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
there's
I
an
agree.
example of being very, very conservative and skeptical.
I agree, and that's why I think your book, I've said this before, is like the best book on cattle mutilations, just because you tackled it from that angle.
We've got Gene, Chris, Alejandro, Walter. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Looking for that edge during those intimate moments? We see many ads for enhancement, but the side effects include death. At GCN Team, we should change the Healthy Body Brain and Heart Pack to the Healthy Libido Pack. The brain and heart are not the only organs that require a healthy vascular system. For proper blood flow at the right moment, go to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
This is a healthcare alert from the Pain Relief Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You don't have to suffer any longer. You can immediately qualify for a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you by calling our 24/7 pain relief hotline at 866-389-0620. Delivery is free and all paperwork is handled for you. If you are on Medicare and have knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain, don't wait. You can qualify to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost by calling our 24/7 pain hotline now at 866-389-0620. Our representatives are standing by 24/7 to take your call and rush you your pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you. Shipping is free and all paperwork is handled for you. Just call 866-389-0620. That's 866-389-0620. Again, 866-389-0620.
As a doctor, I see patients every day who are losing their vision and independence to age-related macular degeneration, also known as AMD. It's the leading cause of blindness in adults 55 and older. Some of us are at greater risk for AMD. If you have blurry vision or blind spots, they can be symptoms of AMD. If left untreated, it can lead to blindness. The good news? With early detection, AMD can be managed with effective clinically approved treatments that can reduce or even reverse some vision loss. Learning that you have AMD can be scary, but there's hope and help. The Foundation Fighting Blindness is researching and developing treatments and cures for AMD. To get your free AMD information packet, contact the Foundation Fighting Blindness today at 1-800-BLINDNESS. That's 1-800-BLINDNESS. Join the fight against AMD because together there is a cure in sight.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
Okay, we've got Gene and Chris and Walter Bosley and Alejandro Rojas for a couple of more segments. Chris, you're about to say something?
Well, I just use as an example of taking a very measured, reserved, conservative approach to a subject that is just totally overrun with presumption, fantasy, speculation, that absolutely it does not bear out the data and the facts. You know, I do consider myself open-minded. We started out the show today talking about the wonderful potential for the use of entheogens in paranormal research and UFO research. I'm totally blasted for that from many corners. How dare you talk about taking drugs and combining that with any sort of serious research? Well, I think that there's a tremendous possibility that would not only give us the potential to find out more about these subjects, but also to find out more about the very nature of human consciousness and how consciousness may have a co-creative aspect that ties itself into and may even help manifest experiences that consider paranormal. So, you know, it's one thing to be conservative and stick to the facts and really be journalistic and healthily skeptical. And it's another thing to have your mind closed. Alejandro has always been someone that I've considered to have a very open mind. You know, the door is closing a little bit as the years go on, but still, I think Alejandro has a very rational mind. But there are some people, unfortunately, out there that are so far off into Kool-Aid slurping land and la-la land that they buy into anything that comes down the pike that happens to conform to their foregone conclusions.
Well, and you know what? That's true on both sides. You know, this is interesting because what we're seeing is a manifestation of what we were talking about earlier, where, you know, I was saying that our society in general has been driven to the extremes, us versus them, and this is a microcosm of that. You've got the people that are in the skeptic camp versus the true believers, right? And neither side wants to be respectful of the other, okay? Rather than the true believers could gain a lot from maybe being a little bit more open to the skeptical inquiry. The skeptics who have, quite frankly, become, some of their cases, their extreme is no better than a religion. They could learn a lot by being maybe a little bit more open to, some of the basics that the true believers look at. But the thing is, we're not there. We got these knee-jerk reactions, and there are those of us, I think all three of us here, all four of us here, are more in that middle ground. We might express opinions where it's like, au contraire, this and that. But honestly, in how we do things, I know, Chris, you and I think my stuff has become more and more in the direction of Alejandro, for instance, than it is true believerism, that's for sure. Because I think I piss off true believers left and right, I know, in the ET community. And probably getting ready to do that with the new book too, but that's the thing. I think skeptic versus true believer is defining our field that we're in, and it shouldn't be.
No, I agree. I really think that both sides should line up for a good spanking. That would help. That would at least at least get them. It might wake them up. In
the conversations. And a lot of people, I think, because of what you're talking about, a lot of people get hesitant to get into conversation around this because they believe it's going to start into a major battle or a fight. But I think it's healthy and important. So, for instance, if Chris disagrees with me or Gene or a number other of colleagues that I greatly respect, it's great because I love to then get in that conversation because I want to be wrong. I mean, I want them to say, hey, look at this. Have you seen this? Have you seen that? I want my eyes to be opened. And, this dialogue, even as I discuss this, is like an internal battle that goes inside of me where I want to find this stuff. And it's a lot of fun because typically in conversations with colleagues that I really respect and have a strong reason for feeling strongly about something, they do have something that is eye-opening for me. And then I learn and I have another piece of the puzzle. Mm-hmm.
It's a process.
Yeah.
And true believers, I totally agree, could learn a lot by coming down out of the clouds and applying a little bit more critical, skeptical analysis of what we've heard this before. I'm not the first to say this, to what they look at. I know how that sounds to some people coming from me. The NIMSA guy, I know how that sounds. I still stand by my stuff, but I admit that to some degree I could be wrong, but I do think the true believers could absolutely learn from a more critical analysis, and they all too often, the extreme ones, just won't do it.
And the skeptics need to come up out of the cave.
My actual degree is in psychology, and it's something, especially in this field, I look at a lot. And there just are a number of people, if not the majority of people, who are looking for a leader. They're looking for someone to believe and to tell them. They don't have the time to look up the truth. They're living their lives. They don't have time to research, so they're looking for that person.
Oh, David Wilcock.
Yeah, David Wilcock, Dr. Greer, Chris O'Brien, whoever. But they are looking for that person.
So Chris is one step removed from whoever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But we do have to be careful, I think, and we have to understand that that's what's going on with many of these people. And so often, the skeptics, the true skeptics, the debunkers who are, like professional skeptics or debunker, who I agree are so close-minded, they're ridiculous. They don't look at the facts. They or those who get frustrated by people not listening to their side of the story, it doesn't really serve you to attack these groups of people, but just to approach them in a more positive manner seems to be more helpful for them to kind of drink your Kool-Aid instead of someone else's.
Yeah, I'm learning, Alejandro. I'm learning.
Yeah.
I'm
you struggle with this.
Blog called The Grumpy Investigator.
I'll admit, I heard somebody even recently said, Chris O'Brien, he just seems to be getting more grumpy and more aggressive.
Well, somebody's got to wake up these knuckleheads.
And what is a bummer is there was no discussion about the substance. Instead, it was more about the perception, which got me frustrated.
Right. I'm agreeing.
Yay. See, there's plenty we can agree on, and I'm sure is plenty we would agree on.
Yeah, I went through the worst year of my adult life last year, so pardon me if I get grumpy every now and then.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
I told him he's always been grumpy. You should have seen him in Colorado.
I hit it better.
I think it's ironic that in a period where hostility and aggression seems to be the thing on the menu, every day, people will grumble about somebody getting grumpy,
Well, I think we have somebody here who sometimes is accused of being grumpy, and I just think he wants to be one of the 7 dwarfs, that's all.
Yeah, right. Well,
hey, speaking of the 7 dwarfs, I recommend a movie from 2012, a Spanish silent film called Blancanieves. It's Snow White. It's a retelling of Snow White in the bullfighting arena, or like 1920s. I recommend it. Excellent film.
A silent film?
It's a silent film made in 2012, Spanish film. It's like an old, it's kind of like The Artist, an homage to silent cinema, and it's called Blancanieves.
Well, we did have a movie called Silent Movie from Mel Brooks, if anyone remembers that. We've got to do a break in a moment. Let me just tell you that I have no idea how this is going to work out, but we are going to have a great episode of After the Paracast this week, because it'll take a lot of time to figure out what's been happening for the past 11 segments. And if you want to learn more, you go to plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. We are joined by Alejandro Rojas, Walter Bosley, Chris O'Brien, Gene Steinberg. You're in the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
We also have swag. We have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got 60 or so different items, and entails t-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast Jumbo tote bag, all sorts of t-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great t-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
Introducing the fastest growing digital currency company in the world, OneLife. With over 2.1 million members, OneCoin is becoming the most powerful force in digital currency. It reached over $1 billion in revenue in its first year. No other company has accomplished such an impressive feat. Now you can achieve financial independence with the strength of OneLife. Find out how to build your financial dreams. 877-933-4747. 877-933-4747. Dedicated to helping you create financial abundance.
Has neck, back, or shoulder pain got you down? Go to sunshine-pillows.com and get soothing comfort, support, and pain relief fast. Their microwavable heat therapy pillows and wraps treat neck and shoulder pain, reduce stress, and relax the soul. An ergonomic pillow from Sunshine Pillows supports your head and neck on long trips or when simply resting at home. Be good to yourself. Visit sunshine-pillows.com. sunshine-pillows.com.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Dangerous blood clot device alert. If you or a loved one had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to your heart or lungs and suffered an injury, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, and even death. These dangerous blood clot devices can break, and the metal fragments can travel to your heart or lungs, causing serious injuries. If you or a loved one suffered organ damage or other injuries from an IVC filter, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada.
This is an alert. If your business or church is building this year, you're about to pay more than you should. This could mean thousands of dollars more for your office, retail space, church, or warehouse. A General Steel building can save you as much as half the cost and time of similar conventional construction. And we're offering rebates of up to $20,000 to help you build today. Call General Steel for free information that could save you thousands. Call 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL. 866-91-STEEL.
Hi, this is James Fox from Chasing UFOs. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Well, this has been quite an unexpected session here. Alejandro, you were raring to go.
So Friday mornings, it's just, I'm always a little more spunky, a little more frisky. It's like the whole week, you have the frustrations of the whole week. And I always come in, it's like I'm wrapping up this week and nothing's getting in the way. So, yeah. And plus with you guys, you guys love getting me all riled up.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, that's why we're here. That's our job.
In fact, day and night, Chris and I take notes. What could we do to make Alejandro go off the rails?
You bastards.
Well, it's hard not to get riled up in this day and age when we're sitting on the edge of anarchy and
oh my gosh,
cultural revolution.
I know, ain't it cool?
Yeah, I mean, we live in that Chinese curse, gentlemen.
Yeah, I heard this phrase in the Air Force. They use it in the military all over the place. This kind of stuff, this kind of situation, this chaos and all this stuff, it's an opportunity to excel.
Yeah.
And just like you said, the Chinese interesting time. So, the way I look at it is, it's awful. It sucks. I'd rather break away and run off somewhere else. But if I'm going to be stuck here, then, let's make lemonade,
Yeah, might as well be interesting.
Amen, brother.
Yeah. Gotta break those few eggs first. Gotta break a few eggs.
Alejandro, what sort of projects and stuff do you have coming up besides your usual weekly stuff?
Well, we've got a new thing coming up. We're going to be doing a news magazine type of monthly YouTube video where we're going to kind of start from the beginning and build it up. And I think it's going to be more in-depth than people have seen. So, for instance, we're starting with Blue Book. So the first thing is going to be there were amazing Blue Book files. So we're going to focus on 1952 and that wave, I think more in depth than people have seen before. And we're going to have people like Nick Pope and John Alexander, others that are kind of insiders with some insight talking about this. But then we're going to build on to such as that there are files. There was a continued interest. We do have government files that show there's a continued interest, including in nuclear facilities. And then we're going to delve into where those files went. And a lot of stuff I think that is just not out there that I think will be more revealing and show that there has been a continued interest. But it's also challenging this idea of conspiracy, even the term conspiracy. What is a conspiracy? The military is highly secretive. The government's highly secretive. People everywhere are lying. The military's knee-jerk reaction is to lie. It's all about PR and spin, and it's just kind of the way it is. Marketing is all lying. It's like it's okay to lie now. That's what we do. That's the first. So what is a conspiracy? If that's the case and a conspiracy is a government lie, then we're surrounded by conspiracies. Everything's a conspiracy. So we're living in a new world, I think, past the edge of looking, oh my gosh, the government would lie. Of course they would. So what have they been lying about, and what's really been going on behind the scenes? It's almost like we're a little more sophisticated, that we know there's a level of what we're told, and then there's a level of what's really happening. But we can also examine why we're told what we're told, and maybe sometimes it makes sense. But just to show there is a genuine mystery that's gone on with some extraordinary incidents that have taken place. And it does, I think, move people, because I think people are moved towards, they do understand, okay, here's what we're told, but what is the truth? And sometimes that's really hard to find, especially when it comes to black projects or some of these murkier areas that, you all are talking about, or that Walter kind of specializes in.
All right. That sounds like exciting stuff at Open Minds.
Yeah, and then we've got the conference coming up, of course, and we're going to have more exciting guests there, so people will have to keep an eye on that.
Cool.
Well, okay, we're going to send you the bill for that, Alejandro.
Oh, for the conference? You guys are always special guests anyways.
Well, we're thinking here, of course, of charging you for the ads, so, of course, we'll make lots and lots of money from you.
That's I asked the question, Gene.
Well, and not only that, we don't make money, so that'll just add to how much.
Neither do Chris or I.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
There is no money. I think what's happened is when they decided to dole out the money, ET, and especially the star beings from Zeta Reticuli, they said, okay, Gene, cross him off. Chris, cross him off. Walter, cross him off. Alejandro, we've got the real estate gig going, so he's okay.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they said, Greer, we're going to give him some money. We're going to give David Wilcox some money.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So the ETs have their favorite. They're playing their favorites.
Yeah. Don't get me started.
Come on, Chris.
I promise not to be grumpy. I don't want to break that promise.
Well, you've got a reputation to uphold now.
Yeah, but we've got one listener who bailed from the Paracast Plus because Chris is grumpy and we have too much politics.
Oh, geez. Well, what can you do? We're all human. If I ever say anything political on one of my shows, boy, do people get upset. And it's like, you know what? I'm a human being. Once in a while, my opinions and some of those things are going to slip out. I try not to, but
because we can understand these people, they're getting it in every other place they go and watch and listen. Yeah. I think when they come to if they come to your podcast or they come to the Paracast or any of these things, they're kind of looking for a break from that. They want to hear other things that we do, and I respect that. I totally get that. I look at this stuff as an escape from all that stuff too. But you're right. Once in a while, if something gets through, people shouldn't be so hypersensitive.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is it's a bubble. And if your political point of view is not in their bubble, it becomes more offensive. And that's it. That's why we're so polarized. People live in this bubble. They reinforce each other with their echo chamber. And therefore, they can never get a well-rounded view of everything. So as soon as they're confronted with something that's a little bit outside their comfort zone, oh, my God.
It's like I said earlier. The Democrat guy can't buy donuts from the Republican donut maker, and vice versa. It's getting to be ridiculous where we're talking about just buying donuts for crying out loud, but we bring this political filter in on it, and it just screws everything up. I'd like to see people stop doing that, but...
Ordinary people talk about other people. Slightly evolved people talk about events, and real thinkers talk about ideas. So we attempt to kind of be all things for all people.
Yeah.
Which, of course, therefore, we appeal to nobody. That's our biggest problem here at the Paracast. We appeal to nobody and no one, and everybody hates us. So that's it. I think we're going to talk to those star beings and see if they have any advice. Star beings, do you have any advice? No, forget it. Anyway, Alejandro Rojas, as we wind down, can you tell our listeners a little bit more about where they can find the things that you do?
Yep, you can find everything at openminds.tv. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. I think we're super active on both of those, and YouTube. But you can find it all at openminds.tv, including information about the upcoming UFO Congress that we have every year. And wandering the hallways every year, you'll find a Gene and Chris, which is always fun.
Maybe we'll get Walter to fly down here instead of buy that new Mac. Walter, where can we find more of your stuff?
Amazon.com. You can find my books on Kindle. Just, do a search on my name and all my books come up. For those who prefer printed, they can go to Lulu.com and look up my books. My blog is empireofthewheel.blogspot.com. And I just announced a new book coming out, shooting for late September, titled Shimmering Light, Lost in an MK Ultra House of Anu.
Oh, boy. That's Walter Bosley. You can find us on... You can find us on Twitter if you look for the Paracast, on Facebook, 2 Paracast fan clubs. And if you go to plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com, what the heck do you find? Well, you find the Paracast Plus. We tell you how to sign up. We're offering that book with Ray Stanford and Chris O'Brien, second chapter going up any day now. We've got the commercial-free version of this show. We've got the After the Paracast podcast and more goodies coming. We'll tell you what they are for a modest subscription rate, plus.theparacast.com. Walter Bosley, Alejandro Rojas, thank you both for joining us on the Paracast.
Thank you, Gene and Chris. I appreciate being here, and it's good to talk to you and meet you, Alejandro. I look forward to looking at your site and more of your work.
Yeah, ditto. Thank you. I apologize. I was a little bit blindsided, so I just came on in a last-minute type of thing because I love talking to these guys, so I wasn't familiar with the topics and stuff. So hopefully I didn't offend anybody, but I look forward to looking into your stuff, too. It was really nice to meet you online here.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible, Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.